So the meeting between President Donald Trump and the Prime Minister of UK, Prime Minister Starmer, just concluded. As I mentioned earlier on, there was a joint press conference after their bilateral meeting along with their with their cabinet member and the delegation from UK. So during the joint press conference, they told the press that they are working, the teams, the UK team and the US team will work on a trade deal, an economic deal that will be announced in the coming weeks or months. But part of their main conversation, as we reported earlier on today, focused on the peace deal regarding the ending the crisis in Ukraine and finding a solution to that crisis. And the Prime Minister also, while they were in the Oval Office, we didn't get a chance to report on this earlier on, presented an invitation from King Charles to President Donald Trump, inviting him to the UK for a state visit, and the President Trump accepted. This will be his second visit, his second state visit, and it was mentioned that this is a very, 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 very special invitation. So the president has a lineage. We know that part of his father came from Scotland. So the significance of this invitation is very, very important, as well as very personal to the president of the US. But as I said, their discussion focused on Ukraine, on finding a peaceful, and this discussion comes ahead of tomorrow's visit from President Zelensky that will be at the White House tomorrow to sign a deal providing mineral resources to the U.S., critical resources to the U.S. So there will be a deal that will be signed between the U.S. and Ukraine tomorrow morning. Also, the discussion, as I mentioned, focused on trade. And also, there was a question regarding the ceasefire deal in Gaza, and the Prime Minister mentioned that underscore that they support a two-state solution that a lot of other European nations, as well as the rest of the world, have called for. That when the situation has been clear, there is support that the end result should include a two-state solution for Gaza, in the ceasefire with Gaza, for Israel as well as for Palestine. We know that the King Abdullah II was here at the White House last week talking with President Donald Trump regarding finding a solution to what is going on. It might seem like, the last 2-3 weeks, there's been several leaders visiting the White House, and the focus of this administration has been addressing two of the major crises that we're seeing: the Russia aggression against Ukraine, as well as the ongoing crisis in Gaza that started in 2023, October 2023. What they didn't talk about, or perhaps they discussed that we don't know, is the crisis that we see in Africa, in the DRC right now. Actually, there was a report today that there are several people who were killed. More than at least 17 people were killed during a protest in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So the world has been calling to find a solution, and I know this is something that President Ruto of Kenya, as well as the presidents of Angola, are working to also find a solution to this. The President Donald Trump have said that he would like to see a peaceful solution to what is going on in DRC. We know DRC, why this is significant for the U.S. The Lobito corridor that is being built, which the G7 is part of the G7 infrastructure. That corridor will go through Angola, DRC, and Zambia. And DRC is one of the main countries with the largest copper as well as other minerals that we need, that the U.S. need as well as the rest of the world to power our phone, EV, electric vehicle, for example. So it is really in U.S. interest to work to ensure that the situation in DRC between Congo and Rwanda are resolved. Another crisis that the UK have been working on, as well as the G7 and the UN, is the crisis in Sudan. As I mentioned earlier on, President Donald Trump, during his first term, this was something that he worked on to ensure there was peace in that region, as well as provided debt relief. The EPIC program, the Trump administration at that period, the Treasury, Munushi, worked with the IMF and the World Bank to ensure that they received the EPIC program to start rebuilding the economic after years of crisis. Of course, this was before 2 years ago when the war started again in Sudan. So right now we have the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, as well as the UAE. They are working on finding a peaceful solution. The previous administration, the envoy, worked on finding a peaceful solution to that crisis. Thousands of people have been killed, including others that have been displaced across the continent and in other countries. So the critical mineral, again, that area is very important, not just to the U.S., but the global economic and the global trade. It's part of the area where supply chain travel through. So we have the situation in DRC and the situation in South Sudan. As much as the focus is on Ukraine, the focus is on Gaza right now, those two areas are critical to the global economy. So I know the UK people have been working, and the foreign minister, David Lammy, was actually recently in Sudan, again traveling across the continent to find a solution. So I will continue to talk to the administration. The Treasury Secretary Scott Bennett was here today, and we asked whether there was a ongoing talk between the U.S. and the people in Sudan and East Africa to find an end to this solution. But the talk, it might have been part of the discussion between the UK and the US president. We don't know, why we continue to ask. But the focus today was on their bilateral economic trade. And President Donald Trump also was asked if he will impose tariff on the UK. And he said they are given this special relationship between the US and UK. They are working, their team will work together, and there might not be tariff included in that. So this wrap up our news report. The conversation focused on economic trade, as well as finding a peaceful solution to the war in Ukraine, and also finding a lasting solution, ceasefire and lasting peaceful solution to the situation in Gaza that will include two-state solution. So this wrap up my news report for today. We will follow up more in depth in the newsletter that will be delivered to your inbox tomorrow morning, and also on our website. Thank you very much for watching.